Harper Wave and Harper Audio present Southern Women. More than 100 stories of visionaries, artists, and icons. By Amanda Heckert and the editors of Garden and Gun. Foreword by Allison Glock. Read by Megan Tusing, Colleen Marlo, Janina Edwards, Robin Miles, Eileen Stevens, and Adenrele Ojo.
Introduction. Grit and Grace. When we named Garden and Gun back in 2007, we wanted to evoke a love of the land, a sensibility that adds depth to the stories we tell about the South and the way we live here. When I think about those two words, I also can't help but recall my grandmothers. I wrote once in an early issue about how those two women represented the essence of not only the garden and the gun, but also grit and grace. My maternal grandmother, we called her Mama, lived on a tobacco farm in North Carolina, where she raised my mother and 5 other children. Summer days spent with Mama were magical, gathering eggs, riding tractors, eating fresh-picked watermelon on the front porch. My paternal grandmother lived in the little town of Warrenton, North Carolina, and her social graces were impeccable. Our visits were announced in the local paper, and while she and my grandfather were not well off, she set a beautiful table. Sparkling goblets, lovely linens, and plates full of perfect biscuits and bacon. Like many Southern women, grandmother and Mama, different though they may have seemed, each possessed both grit and grace, and I like to think I inherited those traits from them. Growing up in Columbia, South Carolina, I did nothing by half measures. Instead of giving an ordinary book report on Pippi Longstocking, I dressed up as the irrepressible redhead and bounded into the classroom in character to tell my tale. I graduated at the top of my class in high school, and I fully attribute this drive to do just a little bit more than everyone else, and to try to do it better, to my mother and father. He was a college professor and she was a former English teacher, and they encouraged me at every turn to spread my wings, to do anything I set my mind to. In retrospect, that work ethic, that grit, and the grace I learned as a woman growing up in the South were both key to my success in the magazine world. I moved to New York after college and quickly made my mark selling retail advertising for GQ magazine, creating a new nationwide business of in-store promotions for guys, a first in the men's magazine world. When I was named the first female publisher of The New Yorker, the announcement made a splash, but I was focused on the gargantuan task of turning around what was at the time a money-losing magazine. Invariably, I would be asked throughout those years in New York, "Isn't it difficult to be a Southern woman in business in the Big Apple?" I always balked at the question. It wasn't until I returned to the South in 2004, following stints at Marabella and Fortune, that it occurred to me that perhaps I did approach business differently because of my Southern roots. When I first went over to The New Yorker as an associate publisher, an interviewer asked me why the publisher wanted me, and I answered, "I think he knows I'll bust my ass." But looking back, that willingness to work hard was also aided by a little bit of Southern savvy, that ability to know how to sweeten your asks, to get people to see your side, to be fair and gracious to those you meet and manage. It certainly took that same pluck to get Garden and Gun off the ground. When we first proposed the idea of a national magazine and brand about the South, no doubt we were looked at askance, and we experienced our bumps in the road along the way. But we knew that by celebrating the best of the Southern lifestyle, with spirit and soul, and by sharing captivating stories, we could appeal to an audience that was underserved, one that craved compelling writing about the land they loved. One of the great privileges of this job has been meeting and spending time with our readers over the years, many who remind me of the fearless, funny, smart, driven, dynamic women from across the region whom you'll meet in the following pages. Musicians, writers, chefs, actors, designers, entrepreneurs, artists, public servants, and more. From the MacArthur
Sample complete. Ready to continue?